Hey guys, Andy back here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you part 4 of the Necromunda Ash Wastes playlist. So this time we are going into the pretty cool model, the Orlock Quads. So this is a very cool addition to the Orlock range, in which it is a quad motorcycle crewed by 2 Orlock gangers, one driving it and one on a heavy weapon at the back. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to paint up the quad itself. If you want to know how to paint up the riders on the back, I refer you to the Orlock video itself. I think that was the first video we did for this playlist. So use that video to paint the guys on the back, and then this video to paint up the quad. You put the 2 pieces together and voila, you'll have a very cool miniature for your gang games. So stick around and enjoy the video. Okay, to start the quad off, I gave it a coat of Chaos Black to seal it in, and then I gave it a nice light coating of Leadbelcher spray. You can of course do this by hand with a pot of Leadbelcher if you don't have a can. That might actually be easier because, as you can see here, I'm going back over the miniature with Leadbelcher paint as it is. The reason that I'm doing this is spray paints can be hydrophobic, so that when you apply contrast to them, the contrast does not like to stick to the smooth surfaces. This is amplified with using metallic sprays. So what I'm doing here, which you can say it's not changing anything about the miniature looks wise, but it will help when I move to the next step and I start applying contrast to the body of this thing, and that the contrast will hold a hell of a lot better on all those flat surfaces, which is going to make my life a hell of a lot easier. So the first actual color I'm going to go to is Fleshed Hair's Red Contrast, and I'm going to use the design of the bike for this. So on the main front body part, there's like 2 different panels. So I've gone for the inner panel, and I'm going to do this in Fleshed Hair's Red. This is just to break up the different colors. If you're doing your own gang colors or anything like that, this is the kind of panel that you would use to differentiate the different colors of your gang. So I've done this panel, I've done the shock absorbers that are under each wheel, and the saddle got done with the red as well. The next thing I want to do is move over to Black Templar, and if you look at the art and pictures of this miniature on the website, I thought most of it was going to be silver, whereas in fact most of the body and frame is actually going to be done with black. So I went around the body part that wasn't red in all of the black, and then I picked out a couple of key areas. I didn't do as much black as they suggested. I quite like the metallic looking frame underneath everything, but each to their own, whatever you guys want to do. This is just my personal preference for this stage. I was careful with the stowage racks at the back over each fender. But of course some Black Templar got on those, but when we get to the layering stage later on and we're neatening up those racks with a bit of Leadbelcher again, then we can tidy up any mistakes that we made. So don't be panicking too much. And as you can see, because I've done the base coat with a brush of Leadbelcher, the contrast is going on absolutely beautifully. It's gripping to those smooth surfaces. It's not pulling itself apart again and pooling where you don't want it to. It's just giving you that really nice coat. So of course I've gone over all of the wheels with the black as well. And now it's time to shade all of the miniature down. So for this I'm going to go for Seraphim Sepia. Once again, I want to darken down, dirty up the look of this bike. This isn't something fresh off the production line, you know, oiled and greased up and ready. It's out in the ash wastes, driving around for decades. It's had multiple different owners. It is not in the best condition. Plus every other miniature in this playlist has had the same shade put over it, Seraphim Sepia, which means that when you put it together as a collective game, the tones are all going to match and they're all going to look like they're from the same set. So while this miniature is drying, I'm going to base up the miniature and then get ready for the layering stage. And as usual guys, while we are waiting for the shade to dry and for the basing material to dry on the miniature, I always like to take this opportunity to thank you guys for the continued support for me and for the channel. We're kind of 3.5 months into this project. We're kind of 12,500 subscribers, which is insane, and I hope that it continues to grow moving forward. So how can you help me do this? Make sure that you like all the videos that come out, and drop me comments below if you have any questions about anything that I've done. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button for the channel yet, make sure that you do that. It does help me immensely. Thank you guys so much, and let's get back to the video. Okay, while, like I said, the shade was drying, I based the miniature up. This is my personal ash waste spacing scheme. A bunch of you guys have asked me for a video on that, so there will be one in the next couple of days up on the channel, so you can follow along with that. We're going to go for Khorne Red, and we're going to use this to layer up all of the red parts on the miniature. So once again, the inside of the fender, the shock absorbers, I did a little bit of highlighting too. I'm not sure if you'd really noticed that in the end. They're kind of under the miniature, but I was doing it anyway. And then the saddle as well, I decided to do red just for like balancing of color. So I layered that up with the Khorne Red, leaving, you know, all the little crevices and stuff like that sepia washed and nice and dark. Next we're going to move on to Corvus Black, which is kind of my new favorite black for layering up black, I guess, because it's not that flat color that you can see on the rim of the base. It's just something a little bit different. That touch of grey really makes it pop out and not just look like, you know, an unpainted piece. It looks really nice. So I went around and layered up the body and any other parts that are black. I didn't do the wheels. If you notice, the wheels are already kind of dusted up. Part of the stage of doing my base is to dry brush the base with Tyrant's Skull. And while I was doing that, I decided to dry brush up the wheels as well, which just added that kind of dust and traveled look to them, which looks really nice. Which of course you would do the same thing, but depending on what basing scheme, if you go for like a Martian style, you might want to do like a more reddish type of dry brush around the wheels. Next we're going to move over to Leadbelcher. And this we are going to touch up all of the metallic parts that are on the bike. So those big pointy prow spikes for running over people, all of the inner frame, engine block, the big rig bit at the back that holds up the gunner, and of course those stowage racks over the fenders. You do get extra parts with this kit to put on those fender racks, like bags and stowage and stuff like that. I feel like if you've watched the video on how to paint my Orlock ganger by himself, you can basically take the information from that and apply it to those bags if you want to put them on. I left them off for more sleek, streamlined looking bikes. Once you've gone and done that stage, I actually go back to Leadbelcher once again, but this time it's for a really light dry brush, and I'm going to do that all over the black and red frame, all the fender, all that body work, just to give it that kind of scratched, worn look. I didn't want to leave them this pristine black and red. It doesn't suit me and what my idea of Necromunda is. So yeah, just little micro scratches all over the edges and stuff. It's a very quick step to do, but I think it really adds something. And with that, that's, in my opinion, the bike complete. It looks quite plain here, but of course most of the main color comes from the rider and the gunner. So these are two miniatures that I painted separate from this miniature, and if you want to know how I did these, there'll be a link at the top of the screen now which will take you to the first video in this series, which is to how you paint up an Orlock on foot, which will give you all the tips and tricks you need to paint up those guys. And when those guys are glued to the bike itself, you are left with this one Orlock quad, ready to race around the dunes of the Ash Wastes, hunting nomads, protecting convoys, and generally just being pretty awesome. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. You can go away and paint up your own Orlock quads quickly and effectively, and you're already happy with the results. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end of the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.